hello, and welcome to another episode of the Ball and All a podcast. This is my weekly basketball podcast where I talk all things basketball, NBA, WNBA, Basketball Africa League. I finished with the Basketball Africa League has ended, so we're now moving into NBA Finals, and after that we'll do the WNBA. So I thought I'd do an NBA Finals recap. I've done the preview show, so please do go check that out on my YouTube channel, The Ball and All Podcast. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and you'll find that video there. So doing an NBA Finals recap, we did a preview. The preview was the 4 things to look out for. And so game 1 happens at the Oracle Arena in San Francisco. The Warriors return back to the finals, whereas the Celtics are there for the first time in 12 years. And so that was what the story was. Were the Warriors going to be as fluid, like they've just gotten back to the dance that they've missed out on, or were the Celtics going to be tight? And essentially, it kind of went that way. But it was quite interesting because both teams were, I think, the opposite of what they were. I think in the previous show, I spoke about how the Celtics were front runners, and they always were front runners. I spoke about how the end of quarter play is going to be important. The Celtics this time had better end of quarter play in the start of the game, the first 3 quarters, because as much as the Warriors, who were lights out for the first time I've seen in the playoffs so far to start off a match, because they always start slowly. They were lights out. Steph was scoring really well. He scored 21 points in the first quarter. That's the most of any player in any quarter in the NBA Finals. It was really good to see. He was like 6 from 8 from 3 in that sequence. But the Celtics were like 4 points away. It looked like they were shooting 45 from 3. They were shooting in the first half. They shot I think 44 from the field, which is something the Celtics were doing quite well, trying to restrict the buckets inside and try force the Golden State to shoot from outside, which they were having success in doing. And the big problem with the Celtics was locating where Steph was. Ime was like, you need to find him. Like, there's nothing I can do for you. Other teams double Steph. The Celtics decided not to. They decided to switch on the screens. And that was a problem. I think on Steph's screens, they chose not to switch. They decided that the primary defender would go through, try fight through the screen, and that created that little bit of separation, and Steph was just dropping them from everywhere. And essentially that's how this game was going down how this game went down. It's quite an interesting one because Steph put down 30 points in the first 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter it all fell apart for the Warriors, and we'll talk about that as we go through. I felt that the Celtics weren't playing that well offensively. They were struggling. Jason Tatum really did struggle, but they were there and thereabouts. And every time the Celtics made the Warriors made a big play, you looked at the score and you're like, wait, they're 4. They should be like 10 or 12. But they were there. They were there and thereabouts, and they just kept themselves in the game. And even at halftime, they're only down by like 4. And that kind of gave you an indication that Ime Udoka would be like, yeah, no, we haven't played the best defense. We haven't defended well. We haven't played a great game, but we are 4 away. And that's what they did to go into the third quarter. But the second half was more traditionally what these two teams are like. The second half was actually quite cool because the Warriors are the best third quarter team in the playoffs, and the Celtics are the worst. And they outscored it was 38-24 in the third quarter. The Warriors went wild. They opened the lead to double digits. It was, I think, 14 at one point, and it just kept on blowing up, kept on ballooning. Oh, well, not ballooning, but it kept on being kept in check. And I think at the start of the fourth, it was 11 to go, 11 points. And then the Celtics came running back. And it was largely because they committed on defense. They locked up on defense. The Warriors got a little tight. And I spoke about the end of quarter play. At the end of every quarter, the Celtics made a bit of a run to come back. And that's what happened in the third quarter. But in the fourth quarter, they then took on the mantle of the Warriors being a fourth quarter team. The Warriors are really good in the fourth quarter. Good in the third, they're good in the fourth. And the Celtics just ran away. They were 40-16 in the fourth. And it was all with Jason Tatum scoring 0 points in the fourth quarter. He scored 0 points. Al Horford scored 11 points. Jaylen Brown scored 10. Marcus Smart came with 6. Peyton Pritchard, who was really important in this one, came with 5. Derek White came with 6. And I think if you want to look at the keys to the win, was that defense. There was a point about 7 minutes into the fourth quarter where everything shifted, where the Celtics were 3 points away and they started clamping down, forcing turnovers, getting steals, forcing blocks, great defensive plays that were leading to transition offense. And it was Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown shoots, I spoke about it on the last podcast, I think in the third quarter he shoots 20% from 3. In the fourth quarter he shoots like 45% from 3. And you saw that today. He just pulled up. He shot 4 from 6. 2 from 3 from 3, 4 from 6 from the field in that fourth quarter. He was just unplayable. In the day that Jason Tatum wasn't arriving, everyone else arrived. Al Horford, top scorer with 26 points. And these are the keys of the game. It was the role players, and I spoke about the role of the role players. Al Horford came through. Peyton Pritchard came through. Derek White with 21 points. It was one of the best Derek White games you could find. He was shooting really well from 3. The Celtics aren't the best shooters away from him, but today they found a way, especially the role players, they found a way to help Jason Tatum. But the thing about Jason Tatum, I think he identified early on it wasn't working for him, and he was just making plays. 13 assists, crucial stat. He was a plus minus 27. He was not a liability for his team on the court, even though he was not scoring. His offensive rating was, I think, 131, which only beaten by Peyton Pritchard, 165. He played less minutes, and Derek White, 144. Everyone else around there was hanging around the 120s. It kind of tells you the type of player Jason Tatum was in this game. He was more a facilitator and a role player, and he was just giving people, he was helping everybody get shots. It wasn't Kobe-esque, but it was Magic-esque. It was, I can't score, so let me spread the love. And he did really well. I think the Celtics defense got better in the third quarter. They kept on. And what they did was they put Peyton Pritchard as the primary defender on Steph. And whenever that screen came and they switched on him, Steph would switch on to a bigger defender. Made life a lot harder. I think Steph shot 20%, 1 from 5 in the fourth quarter from 3. And it just kind of slowed everything down. For the Celtics, for the Warriors in the half court. In the half court, the Celtics are a very dangerous defense. They do not allow people to get easy buckets inside. And the other stat that you needed to watch out for was the offensive rebound. In the first 3 quarters, I think the Warriors out-rebounded the Celtics. Warriors had 11 offensive rebounds. In the final quarter, they only had 1. It tells you where they were, what they were doing. In the first 3 quarters, the Celtics were being stretched to the perimeter. They did take Robert Williams out a lot, and Al Horford was sitting on the perimeter. He shot really well from the perimeter, and there's those type of games that make you through, that make you famous. And this is the Al Horford game. But in the final quarter, they really did protect the rim. They protected the paint, and it made it very hard for the Warriors, who were struggling, because obviously it was supposed to regress. It was supposed to the law of averages kind of kicked in for the Warriors in terms of their shooting, and it just never was what they saw in the first half. It was a 45% 3-point shooting percentage to a 38% 3-point shooting percentage in the second half. So massive drop, and the Celtics come out of this one. They steal. I know people are going to say they steal. Well, I think everyone expected the Warriors to win at home, but the Celtics are a really great team away, and they did a really great job at that. And so they always say, the NBA, your playoff series only starts when you lose at home. The Warriors playoffs finals have started, because now they have to come back. They don't want to go 2-0 down going into Boston, even though Boston don't play well at home. So I think it's a really massive win for Boston, because now they're 4 wins away, 3 more wins away. You can actually, because at the start of the finals, you were like, where are they going to get their 4 wins? You didn't see them actually even stealing one here. In Golden State, you thought they'd win the 2 at home, lose the 2 in San Francisco, and then find a way to win Game 5. And then in that, we thought win Game 6 would take it to a Game 7, some type of vibe. But this time, now it opens it up, because Celtics have stolen 1. Now they're comfortable. We're going to obviously expect a fight back from Golden State. They were a little bit sloppy in that fourth quarter, and that's something Golden State get themselves into. They get into a lead, and then all of a sudden they get sloppy. But there's something about that lineup with Andrew Wiggins, with Kevon Looney and Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins. It just stifles the offense a bit. They did go to Jordan Poole, who did really well. in his minutes, and that is not the best defensive lineup with Jordan Poole, and you're taking out Kevon Looney. So that kind of worked for the Celtics there. But Celtics going into Sunday in San Francisco with a 1-game lead, they'll go to Boston tied at worst, and then if they can win the 2 at home, they just need to win one of the 3, and they've got Game 6 in Boston. So there is now a possible pathway for them to get through and get out of this. I know I said Warriors in 6. I still can hold on to Warriors in 6. It makes it a little bit harder. But remember, I also did say that if it goes to Game 7, I might lean to the Celtics, even though I don't think there's been a team that has won 3 Game 7s on the route to winning the NBA Finals. And the Lakers did that in 1988. I'm not sure if Boston have that type of a luck, but we'll see as it goes along. Outside of that, that brings me to the end of the podcast, end of the Game 1 recap. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter as well as on Instagram, Mpho, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be doing Game 2 recap on Monday to discuss all things that have happened in Game 2. Outside of that, have a great day and lesale kakagiso.